Good evening and welcome along to an exciting night for Scottish football fans here on Premier Sports. We're bringing you not one but two live European qualifying matches this evening across the channels. Over on Premier Sports 2 you can follow Motherwell against Glentoran from 7:45, and here on Premier Sports 1 we're at Pittodrie for Aberdeen against NSI Runavik. So Aberdeen aiming to reach the group stages of the Europa League for the first time since the competition was rebranded. They're firm favourites to progress tonight, and the fact these qualifiers are one-off ties certainly adds a different dynamic. Well, as for Runavik, they earned the right to be here by beating Welsh side Barrytown United 5-1 last week. That's the first time in 14 attempts the Faroese side have won a European tie. Despite that though, Aberdeen will not be taking them lightly tonight. So Aberdeen get their European campaign underway tonight, and you can follow the full match here on Premier Sports 1. Kick-off is at 7:45. So European aspirations very much at the forefront of Derek McInnes's mind. And here to look ahead to the game with me tonight, I'm delighted to say a very good evening to Alex Ray and Michael Stewart. Hello guys. Suitably chilly summer evening here in Aberdeen. Have you got an extra layer?
Yeah, absolutely.
No fans here obviously tonight, guys, but it doesn't dampen the importance of this game. How much, Alex, will home advantage count in this one-off tie?
Yeah, I think it's important. It's a familiar surroundings, Emma, and you know they've gone really offensive. Curtis Main, Watkins up front, Young right off him, two wing backs. So I feel as if Aberdeen will have the quality to go on and win this comfortable tonight.
Would you agree with that, Michael? Derek McInnes said before this match that he thought if Runavik were to have a chance, it is the fact it's a one-off tie.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact that there's one-legged ties and the knockout stages, it's important that they've got this home tie. And I think when you look at the opposition, without being disrespectful to them, it's a game that Aberdeen have got to be looking to win. You know, the Faroese side, they came up against Hibs a couple of years ago, and Hibs put 12 goals past them over the two legs. This is a game that Aberdeen should be winning.
The fact as well, Runavik well into their season, they're fourth in their league, they've played 17 games already to Aberdeen's 3. What significance will that have, if any, Alex?
Yeah, clearly they will have a little bit more sharpness, but you look at Aberdeen and the quality they have. Mikey's just touched on in terms of the way that, the levels. They lost 12 goals 2 years ago, and Neil Lennon's team turned them over, so I would expect similar tonight. I think they'll have far too much for this team.
Yeah, and Aberdeen, they obviously had a bit of a stuttering start to the season with what happened off the pitch, but what have you made of their form since they came back into league action?
Well, it was important that they got the two victories in the games that they've played since they came back from that enforced break. I don't think the performances have been at a level that Derek McInnes would want, but the results are an important thing at this stage of the season, and I think as the weeks go on, Aberdeen need to try and find what it is that defines this team. They need to find a style. Not quite happened yet. And obviously over the last couple of years there's been a bit of criticism in terms of the way they've played. I think they've got the personnel in this side to go and play some attractive football. They need to start trying to put it onto the park, and this is a game where they should be able to go and do that.
And of course you were at Celtic Park last night where, well, is that a lesson perhaps tonight that if Aberdeen get the chances they very much have to take them?
Yeah, I mean look, I've just said they can't be disrespectful to the opponents, and I think Celtic, likewise last night, they weren't disrespectful, they dominated a lot of the game, but it was a sucker punch and it's knocked them out of the competition, and especially in these one ties, the one-legged ties, you cannot gift the opponents opportunities, and I think that's the real sort of lesson that has to be learned from last night. A punt up the park, one-on-one with the goalkeeper in the end, and Celtic are out. Now, for Aberdeen, I've already said it's a game they should be winning, but they need to be, mindful. They can't gift opportunities to the opponent, because if they find themselves one or, 2 goals down or whatever, they end up chasing the game. The dynamic of the game changes completely. They need to control the game, and if they do that, chances will present themselves, and they've got to put the ball in the back of the net.
Thank you very much for the time being. Well, I'm sure that is very much the message that Derek McInnes has been spreading within the dressing room. Let's hear from the Aberdeen manager now. He's with Rory Hamilton.
Well, Derek, are you excited to get another European campaign underway?
Absolutely. I think we work hard to amass the points that gets us there. It's always the bare minimum we try and strive for in the start of each campaign, to try and qualify for Europe as quickly as possible. And obviously last season was curtailed earlier than what we wanted, but we still have enough points and we're still competitive enough to get there. So now that we're here, we want to enjoy it. I couldn't think of anything worse sitting watching other Scottish teams playing. So we want to take part, we want to contribute to the tournament and hopefully work our way through the rounds.
It looks like an attacking team that you've selected. Talk us through your selections.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a bit of pace in the team. We want to try and generate that. We wanted to go a front two. They play with a back five, and we wanted to try and get plenty of crosses in the box, try to British them a wee bit. You know, I think in their own division, you know, they're a very strong side, and they can show they're a good team. But we want to make sure that there's enough speed and intensity in our game that can maybe knock them out their stride and ask the question. I'm well aware of their threats. I've got some very good players, and we've mentioned that to the players. But the game should be about us tonight. We want to make sure we dominate the game. We want to dominate the ball, own the pitch, and try and put balls in the box for them to make them defend, and for us to try and make sure we get plenty of bodies getting in there.
Derek, all the best tonight. Thank you.
Cheers. All right, Phil.
So Derek McInnes there with Rory Hamilton, and he said there, Alex, that he's named an attacking lineup. He wants to take the game to Runavik as well, and it's not a surprise to see the way he's set up tonight, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about dominating the middle of the park, you know, you got McGeoch and Ferguson will be in there, then you get your width through Kennedy and Hayes, and I expect him to have plenty of the ball, and it's a right opportunity to rack up some goals tonight.
And it looks, Michael, like at the back he's going with three at the back. Scott McKenna is fit to play today. Andrew Considine free from suspension, and Ross McCrory, who's just joined the club, also in there. Such a versatile player.
Well, he certainly is. You know, he's already played a number of positions in the couple of games that he's played for the club, and he does bring a lot of versatility. They could possibly change formation without changing personnel within the game itself. But I think the important thing is here to get as many attacking players on the park and get them into attacking areas. He's obviously got two wing backs that are practically wingers, and the two guys up top with plenty of attacking options from the middle of the park as well. So I think, as I said already, it's important they dominate the game and get into that attacking third and create as many opportunities early on as possible.
And you talk about the attackers there. Marley Watkins is another new addition to this Aberdeen squad. You've seen him before, Al.
Yeah.
He played up here with Inverness Caledonian Thistle. How important will that previous experience in Scotland be to settle into this Aberdeen side?
Yeah, I think he'll settle in very well. I'm led to believe he didn't train. He just turned up at the weekend and put in a really good shift, and you think to yourself, he's obviously settled in right away. I was talking to Ross McCrory beforehand. He says he leads the line ever so well.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Dylan McGeoch plays tonight, and crucially as well, Michael, Niall McGinn has been past fit enough to make the bench. He was a big doubt for tonight. Yeah,
there's a lot of good options on the bench when you look at it there. And perhaps he'll look to the bench to bring on a few guys later in the game. But I think Dylan McGeoch is one that wants to try to get find his way at the Aberdeen team. It's been a stop-start period for him. Obviously, the season being cut short. Didn't really get into the swing of things. He's got a start here tonight, and it's important that he starts to find his feet because he could be an important player for Aberdeen. Absolutely. Well, Derek McInnes has said that making it to the group stages of this competition would be like winning a trophy. Tonight, Aberdeen take their first step on their Europa League campaign. Kick-off for Aberdeen against NSI Runavik is coming next. And don't forget that Premier Sports is your home for Scottish knockout football. Our exclusive Betfred Cup coverage starts in October when Premier Sports will broadcast 7 group stage games live. It all kicks off with Hearts against Inverness Caledonian Thistle on October the 6th. 3 days later, it's Dunfermline Athletic versus Falkirk, and then we bring you coverage of Cove, Rangers and Hibs. Details of all 7 group games can be found on premiersports.com. So Alex Ray still alongside me this evening. Alex, we talked there, an attacking lineup for Aberdeen, and getting to the group stage a real aspiration. Is this squad good enough to do that? Yeah, without doubt. When you look at the players that are on the bench as well, they've got real options going forward. But I think at the moment it's just about finding his feet. I don't think Aberdeen have actually kind of got into a groove as such within the domestic game, but this is an opportunity to rack up some goals, get some confidence and get the team going forward. Well, the atmosphere may not be synonymous with a big European night here at Pittodrie, but the occasion is certainly no less important. The team are out on the pitch, as you can see. We can cross now to our commentary team, Michael Stewart and Rory Hamilton.
Well, thank you very much, Emma. The start of a new campaign in very different circumstances, looking for a more favourable outcome. A 7th consecutive European season commences for Aberdeen tonight, as they look to make it at long last to the UEFA Europa League group stages. Well, there are 3 changes for Derek McInnes. Scott McKenna is fit enough to start again, while Dylan McGeoch and Andrew Considine return to the team. There's also a first start of the season for Curtis Main as he returns to ease the striker shortage at Pittodrie. Ross McCrory makes his European debut for the club in what looks like a back 3 for Derek McInnes' side. Well, after recent COVID restrictions in the city, Derek McInnes hopes to rebuild positivity in Scotland's northeast. Standing in their way are NSI Runavik of the Faroe Islands, who are on a major high after progressing through the first European hurdle in the club's history. There are no surprises in Glenn Stoll's starting 11, as he goes with the same side that demolished Barrytown in the preliminary qualifier. Dane Jesper Christensen is a summer signing from Lyngby in his homeland. Jan Benjaminson provided 3 assists against the Welsh side, while the man they call Mr. NSI, Clement Olsen, scored a hat-trick, and he captains the team. Well, Aberdeen have had some memorable nights over the last few years in this competition, but tonight it's all a bit different at an empty Pittodrie, minus the Red Army, and looking to progress in a one-off tie that will be settled tonight. Derek McInnes goes into his 31st Europa League tie with the club. They've won 12 of those, and looking to head into the second round of qualification. Aberdeen heavy favourites against the Faroese side, who have arrived here with the right sort of message from Glenn Stoll, the Swedish head coach. But they're looking to, as he says, put in a performance to crack Goliath. They know they're up against it, but they know it's not impossible, and they're not here to play the role of tourists. They will look to make this a real game. And the officials are from Iceland, led by Ivar Kristjansson. Aberdeen lining up in what we expect to be an attacking formation, plenty of creativity in the side behind the likes of Curtis Main and Marley Watkins, who was only recently signed on loan, the former Inverness Caledonian Thistle player. But a huge boost having Curtis Main back, with 3 strikers all on the long-term injury list. And at the request of Aberdeen, the players show their continued support for equality and to spread the message to eradicate racism throughout the world. Ready for a new campaign. Aberdeen under Derek McInnes, looking to bridge a major gap and get to the group stages, something that has been missing in his time here at Pittodrie. He says it would be like winning a trophy. Sigurd Nielsen is the left back for NSI Runavik. They're midway through their season in the Faroe Islands. Johnny Hayes looks up the line. Oh, Michael Stewart has joined me in the commentary box. Michael, what are you expecting from this? Maybe a tricky one for Derek McInnes and his coaching staff to assess beforehand what to know that they'll get from NSI Runavik.
Yeah, I think that that goes without saying, that you can do all the scouting you want, but it's difficult to know exactly what you're going to come up against, especially so early on in the season. But we've watched the game last night, Rory, and there'll be a serious warning there that you cannot take anything for granted. Yes, it's over one leg against opposition you would expect to win at home, but it means that you've got to be at it, dominate the game, dictate possession, chances will present themselves, and that's something that Aberdeen have got to do here. Make sure they play at a high tempo, and the Faroese side should not be able to live with Aberdeen.
And they'll certainly get some high tempo from the pace of Marley Watkins. Drops that back to Johnny Hayes, now Dylan McGeoch. Back out to Hayes again. Trying to use all his experience, gets past his man, stands it up at the back post where Matty Kennedy was coming in, but Johnny Hayes showing exactly what you can get from him down that left-hand side.
Really good play, wasn't it? Just to eventually get the ricochet back to him, but he leaves the defender there for dead. Matty Kennedy coming in the back, perhaps he could have given away a free kick there. I don't think he needed to go into the defender, but Johnny Hayes shown that he's still got that ability to get the ball into the box.
Kennedy now takes, it's knocked away by Sigurd Nielsen. Dylan McGeoch just gives a shout to Lewis Ferguson to make sure there was no breakdown in communication. As Scott Wright just picking up some treatment. I think he took the ball, it was battered at him straight into the hand, so a bit of strapping on the wrist for him. Bit of a loose one from Hayes that allowed Peter Knudsen to get in, but it's Aberdeen back under control through Ross McCrory. And I guess the versatility, Michael, that Ross McCrory brings is that it allows Aberdeen to operate with this back three.
Yeah, and you know, I was just saying earlier on that it gives them the flexibility to perhaps even change formation without changing personnel within the game itself. You know, Ross McCrory can go and play in a number of roles for the Aberdeen side.
No Shea Logan for the first time in a European game under Derek McInnes, but Ronald Hernandez is available on the bench should they need a right back at any point. Lewis Ferguson from Considine towards Watkins. Good strength from Marley Watkins. Looks for Curtis Main. He only got 9 minutes against Livingston, so his first start of the season for Curtis Main. And it's going to be a big spell for him because he's really their only fit out-and-out centre forward. Bruce Anderson, of course, on the bench, the youngster. But with Sam Cosgrove and Ryan Edmondson out injured, we'll need the goals to come from the likes of Main. This is Barder Hansen. Knudsen gets the knock back to Jesper Christensen, but free kick going against NSI Runavik.
Little balls like that from Scott McKenna, it's just little things, but rather than playing the ball to the defender, Dylan McGeoch is there to get the ball. You know, miss defenders out at times. It just helps to speed the game up rather than playing everything in front of the opposition. You can see the Faroese side are going to be camped in, try to make themselves difficult to break down. Got to play with pace. Doesn't just mean players picking the ball up and running with it. It means in possession, playing quickly, missing players out.
Well, the win against Barrytown was only the third in a European game in the club's history, previously beating Dinamo Tbilisi and Linfield. It was about 5 years ago when they beat Linfield but weren't able to knock either of them out, but taking the scalp of Barrytown, a 5-1 win in Torshavn. It was a major triumph for NSI Runavik. Now Watkins, and knocked out by Odur Højgaard.
Again, I think that was another one of those moments where perhaps the referee could have blown his whistle, but he's looking to let the game flow. Can't remember him blowing his whistle yet.
Half chance for Watkins to try and set up Scott Wright. Last touch came off the Aberdonian. Considine, the header back. Olsen knocks it down for Beck. Strong run coming from Nielsen. Benjaminson to Olsen, but Christensen losing out to the effervescent Johnny Hayes. And quickly forward from Considine. Good touch from Watkins. And now Hayes looking to have a run at his man. Clips it in. And a couple of the Runavik players getting in each other's way. Kennedy, of course, arrived in January from St Johnstone. Watkins, Hayes. That's neatly done, but over the top from Scott Wright. The first opening on goal for Aberdeen.
Well, it ends up being a well-worked move. A nice little ball round the corner from Watkins, and Johnny Hayes slips in Scott Wright, who cuts it back really well. You see, once he cuts it back here, he leaves Christensen for dead, but blasts it way over the bar. Really should have been hitting the target there. As soon as he cut it back there, and I think it was Nielsen actually that he left for dead. He's got the goal at his mercy. He needs to try and be hitting the target there. He wasn't under any real pressure.
And free kick against Watkins. It's only Aberdeen's fourth game of the season, fourth game since March, after a breach of COVID restrictions meant that a couple of games were postponed, and a major frustration for Derek McInnes as his season was halted really before it even got started. Open with the defeat to Rangers, but then so important to pick up those 2 wins last week against St Johnstone and Livingston. 6 points to their league tally.
Very, very important, Rory. You know, just when you take everything into consideration, like you're talking about the games being postponed and just the whole feeling of things not getting started. Very important to get those 2 victories.
Kennedy's done well here, and there's Main in the middle. That was really nicely worked by Aberdeen down the right-hand side. Curtis Main's header off target, but promising signs.
It's good play from Matty Kennedy, and you know the problem is that Curtis Main tries to get across the front post area, but he ends up being so far past the front post it's difficult for him to get it on target. Perhaps if he just held back, he had all the space at the back post area and just tried to wait for Matty Kennedy to pick him out. The defender, I don't think, had any idea of where Curtis Main was. Curtis Main ran into his area, just trying to look to get across the front post area.
Clement Olsen, who's a real legend in his hometown of Runavik. A population of about 4,000 people, and he's played for the club all 13 seasons of his career. Knudsen fouled by Considine.
Well, the referee's blown his whistle eventually. I think it was a fair enough call. Considine just being a little bit overly eager to try and get in front of Knudsen.
Johan Davidson knocks it upfield. And Nielsen drops it into Beck. Aiming for Olsen, who's got 200 goals in the NSI Runavik shirt. One for the Faroese national team when he beat Kepa Arrizabalaga in a 4-1 defeat against Spain last season. Forward from McCrory. Touch from Main showed too much to Nielsen. But strongly back in was McCrory, who's on loan from Rangers. It will become permanent at the end of the season.
It was good play from McCrory, just making sure he keep the pressure on the Faroese.
Scott Wright back to Considine. It's a fizz ball in that Lewis Ferguson just couldn't quite bring under his control.
See Lewis Ferguson just running off the back of the midfielder. Difficult with it ending up being behind him. It doesn't look as if he got any shouts from his teammates. I think Main and Watkins were behind him there. They could have perhaps just been shouting to the Aberdeen midfielder just to leave it.
What a moment he had a couple of seasons ago against Burnley in his bicycle kick goal. Aberdeen have been a bit unlucky in recent years with some of the draws that they've had. Last season it was the revenge of Rijeka that knocked them out in the second round after they took care of Georgian side Chakuri. There's McGeoch out to Andy Considine.
Well, you see McCrory on the far side here. If the ball ever does work its way over, they can be the out ball. You know, they can almost act as if they're the full-backs, Considine and McCrory. You've got three at the back against one striker. They can go and promote themselves and drive forward with the ball.
Considine into McGeoch, and again it's McCrory.
There it is, that's what I'm talking about. He can continue to drive forward, and he's got more than enough ability to go and drive forward and pick out a pass.
Matty Kennedy beats his man again, picks out right. There were some half-hearted appeals for a handball by the Aberdeen players. They will persist with the bombardment of the NSI Runavik box.
Didn't look as if he was really convinced that he was going to be able to score there, Scott Wright, with the header.
Early on though, it looks like some joy down that right hand side for Matty Kennedy. Here's Ferguson. McCrory. Kennedy once more. His confidence will be up from the opening quarter of an hour. Now Ferguson strides forward, finds Main, who's just drifted off the front. And Wright, who's hovered out to the left-hand side with Johnny Hayes moving infield. It is Wright's ball in, but out comes Tordur Thompson to make the catch.
Not bad play. That's what you want to see, particularly from the wide areas. Go and commit the opponents. Scott Wright managed to get to the byline there, beat Hansen fairly easily. As the cross was a bit too close to Thompson.
Christensen forward to Knudsen, but out-muscled. too easy for the Aberdeen defenders to regain possession. Scott McKenna. We'll find out tomorrow what the further punishment may be for the players who broke the COVID restrictions, Scott McKenna being one of them.
It's little moments like that where Scott McKenna had the ball, and one criticism of Aberdeen is that sometimes they don't go through the midfield often enough or quick enough. Scott McKenna, there's loads of space out on the right hand side, but he's blocked off from playing it himself. He's got to go into the midfield so they can spin it out the other side. Instead he goes longer, and it was just a bit of a hopeful ball to nobody, and it breaks down.
Now Nielsen's going to look for the long throw. It's Ferguson who's backtracking, and then Hayes to clear. McCrory. No takers for the long ball. Ferguson back to McCrory. Benjaminson up to Olsen, it wouldn't stick for him. And Kennedy has it once more as Aberdeen just look to settle after a bit of an untidy spell. McKenna into Ferguson, no Ash Taylor involved this evening. Now McCrory finds Watkins, who drives forward at pace. He made up some fantastic ground there, Marley Watkins. Lewis Ferguson to take aim from range, but a deflection. Took it well wide of the target for an Aberdeen corner.
You see what a difference it makes when you have somebody that picks the ball up and drives forward, like Marley Watkins there. Drifted past a couple of opponents, injects some pace into the attack. Eventually came to nothing. The cross deflected back to Lewis Ferguson, who had the strike, but he gets the team up the park.
It's a player that Derek McInnes tried to get after he'd won the Scottish Cup with Inverness Caledonian Thistle in 2015, but chose to head down south to Barnsley. Comfortably over the top from Scott McKenna's header.
It was just a bit too much of a loopy corner from Matty Kennedy. Difficult for Scott McKenna to attack it and get any real pace on it.
He's right, and he was fouled in the process. McGee on with things quickly to Ferguson. Now Johnny Hayes. Again looking to go around the outside of Hansen. It's a teasing ball in. Took a touch at the front post. Aberdeen beginning to ask the questions.
That was really good again from Johnny Hayes. Getting past Hansen very, very easily. It was good from Lewis Ferguson just to get the ball out to Johnny Hayes and leave him. Let him go 1v1 against the full-back.
Kennedy's done well. Now Ferguson. Good block coming in from Jesper Christiansen. Now Hayes has Aberdeen look to start again through Ferguson and McGeoch.
See, I think Ross McCrory can afford to continue to drive forward, commit the opponents there. He's got Kennedy out wide that he can always slip in.
Nice from Hayes to right, and the offside flag is up against Lewis Ferguson.
Good eyesight for the linesman, I tell you. Marginal, I think, at best.
Up goes McKenna, towering above his man. Hansen will just have to wait. Now a chance again to perhaps get something into the box for NSI Runavik. Hansen trying to tiptoe his way past Johnny Hayes, who's having none of it. And the referee just ensuring that there isn't anything untoward going on in the middle. Hansen winds up the long one, struck on the edge by Salmunder Beck, but now Aberdeen look to break through Scott Wright. It just got a little bit beyond him. Peter Knudsen. Lost the battle to McGeoch, but he was tugging away at the shirt.
Concern for Derek McInnes will be that Torder Thompson has not had too much to do in the Runavik goal. I'm sure that Aberdeen manager would have been wanting and expecting the goal to have been peppered a wee bit more than it has inside this first almost 25 minutes.
That's a neat exchange until the pass from Jesper Christensen just goes astray. Long it goes from Davidson. A little aimless from him. Well, remember that Premier Sports is the place for Scottish knockout football coming up later on in the season. We'll finish off last season's Scottish Cup with the semi-finals and final live. And we've also got the Betfred Cup coming up starting on October the 6th with exclusive coverage from the group stages all the way through to the final. Picked up by Ferguson, well read by him. Now McKenna. It's just a little behind Curtis Main. There's quite a lot, Michael, been made about this new format, one-legged ties, and it perhaps suiting those sides that come into a game as an underdog. Do you see it that way?
I mean, look, you could view it from any perspective and make an argument for it, but I think for the home side, who are invariably in these early rounds, the seeded team, the better team, then they should be comfortably getting themselves through. Yes, the margin for error is less because, you know, we saw it last night with Celtic, that you slip up and there's no real comeback. You don't have a second game to go and try and rectify it, but certainly makes things a little bit different. But, you know, looking at the context of this game here tonight, this is a game that Aberdeen should be winning, and winning fairly comfortably.
And they avoid the trip out to, it would be Tórshavn, because Runavik's home ground isn't quite up to UEFA standards, so they wouldn't play in the village there. But if you want to look at the highlights of NSI Runavik's 5-1 victory over Barry Town in the last round, don't bother, because I'm afraid you can't see anything through the Faroese fog. Much like the game a few years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when Hibs defeated NSI Runavik. It was a 6-4 win out in the Faroe Islands. Another one that you couldn't see very much of. Here's McCrory. And now Wright. Here's Kennedy. They've got some joy from the winger, and it will be another corner picked up by Matty Kennedy. So an opportunity for the likes of McKenna, Considine, McCrory to get on this corner from Johnny Hayes. Knocked away, and McGeoch will use the last man back in Lewis Ferguson. Joe Lewis comes up for Johnny Hayes. Christensen knocked back for Benjaminson. Approaching half an hour played, and no goals so far at Pittodrie.
We've had crossfield balls played out of park though.
A few of them.
Again, this is opportunity. Ross McCrory continue to drive forward.
It's the direct ball from McCrory to Wright. Main got across his man, but Wright is offside as they look to maintain the attack.
There's a good ball down the line from McCrory, and nice ball in from Scott Wright as well. Coxmean just lacking a little bit of composure when he gets into those areas.
Johan Davidson doing enough to put Curtis Main off. McKenna using his strength to fend off his man. For Glenn Stoll, he'll be pretty happy so far that locked in at 0-0. And his side unable to give Joe Lewis or the Aberdeen defence any trouble as yet.
I think for Runavik manager Stoll, he will be very happy, because the longer the game remains at 0-0, then he'll be thinking that there'll be a wee bit of pressure and some nerves start to build within the Aberdeen side. Tordor Thomas and the goal has not had a great deal to do, so he'll be fairly happy with the structure and the setup of his side. Yes, they've been exposed a wee bit in the wide areas with Kennedy and Hayes, but I don't think Aberdeen have fired the ball out there nearly enough. That should be where they recognise as the out ball. McCrory, Considine, Kennedy and Hayes, as soon as you get the ball, get out to those areas and let them go and attack the opponents.
There's been a bit of a change in the mentality of Faroese football at this stage, and Johnny Hayes absolutely clattered there by Johan Davidson and falling onto the blaze track outside the field of play, and it's the first yellow card of the game.
Quite rightly so as well. Davidson's wiped Johnny Hayes out there, there's no doubt about that.
Johnny Hayes just brushing himself down. Thumbs up, he's okay to continue. The Faroese side's not just accepting being the whipping boys of these qualification rounds anymore. Glenn Stoll saying that clubs from their league now expect to get through one or even two rounds. They've managed to in recent years and got some glamour ties against the likes of Besiktas.
Well, we've just seen a free kick there from Aberdeen, though. You know, the free kick's in Runavik's half. They pop the ball about a bit and it goes back to Joe Lewis. You know, they need to get the ball down and play quicker, and they need to be playing the ball forward, penetrate, hurt the opponents. There's far too many safe passes being played. You had a free kick as well. You send up some big players into the opposition box. Have a bit of a mindset about what it is that you're actually trying to do.
Here's Scott Wright. Nice turn from him. Now Watkins. Wright again. Well, he did manage to score, Scott Wright, at the weekend after a neat interchange with Ryan Hedges. He's on the bench this evening. Considine back to Ferguson. And McKenna and McCrory. Right, plenty of possession for the Dons. Hayes will continue his run. Watkins touch onto the Irishman. McGeoch for Kennedy. Doesn't need any encouragement to take on his man, but on this occasion Jan Benjaminson gets a foot in. They're looking to unleash Matty Kennedy at every opportunity, though. McGeoch manages to offer himself. Kennedy again. Venturing infield, does find Watkins. Kennedy. And now Considine, half thought about the shot, instead he flicks it in, and Aberdeen have got their goal, and Lewis Ferguson celebrates. It's taken almost 36 minutes, but Ferguson with the opening goal, and Aberdeen are off and running.
That's a good bit of play from Matty Kennedy, being positive. Spins it out here. I thought Considine was perhaps going to have a strike at first. Lewis Ferguson does really well when this ball gets stood up to just out-muscle the opponent, and nod it at the bottom corner. Very, very important for Aberdeen to have got that goal. You can see that Derek McInnes quite happy with that, but very important that they get that goal before half-time, because if that had been 0-0 going into the break, then I'm sure there'd be some choice words having been said in the Aberdeen changing room.
Well, that will just settle any nerves that were on the Aberdeen side and allow them perhaps to relax into this game and build on that one goal from Lewis Ferguson.
It's not just settling nerves for Aberdeen, it just is dispiriting for Runavik as well, which is equally important. But what they need to do now is they need to maintain a high tempo. They need to drive this advantage home. Johnny Hayes just needs to keep hitting that byline.
Here he goes. This time Barder Hansen able to knock it out for another corner, and Aberdeen not relenting with their pressure on the NSI Runavik goal. It will be for Johnny Hayes to take, as he just had a short conversation with Matty Kennedy before he takes aim. They may have a plan for a short one. Instead, Hayes with the looping one out to Ferguson. Well, that was always going to be rather ambitious, and we'll need a new ball after that one.
Difficult technique. Hit it from the corner.
Barder Hansen. Up goes Considine, won it well ahead of Peter Knudsen. Main was unable to control it, but he was being manhandled by Davidson. There's McCrory out to Kennedy. Now Main and right. It's well worked out to Johnny Hayes. He will catch that one. Plenty to aim for in the middle for Hayes, but he could only find a yellow shirt.
Good play again from Matty Kennedy. He's driving infield but looking to play the forward pass once he gets in there. I thought Matty Kennedy could have been the ball rather than spinning it out wide to Johnny Hayes. He continued his run through, and I thought he could have been slipped in.
It is Matty Kennedy to take the corner for Aberdeen. Out comes Thompson, the goalkeeper. Strong punch from him. They've got a bit of a financial black hole, Aberdeen, to fill this season. They've already managed to claw back a few million, but making the group stages of the Europa League would be a huge boost. Long way to go, though. McCrory finds Considine. Now Hayes. Ferguson, the goal scorer, neatly lays it off for Hayes as he was brought down. Watkins can't quite get through, but he was offside. Mortis Mortensen is recovering after coming together with Ferguson. Thompson looks long for Knudsen, but McKenna always in control. haven't looked bothered at all at the back so far, Aberdeen. Now Main, and Wright takes charge. Kennedy, another chance to run at his man, but they managed to double up, and it was Benjaminson who tracked Kennedy well.
Yet again, though, Rory gets the team up the park, makes sure that Runavik are on the back foot, and they're having to, you know, get plenty bodies across to deal with it. Those wide areas are where Aberdeen have been getting plenty joy. Both sides, Kennedy and Johnny Hayes on the near side here as well. Getting into good areas. They've just got to try and find that final ball once they get into those areas.
Scott Wright to try and do that, and he picks out a fine ball to Curtis Main. There's the second, and Main back in the starting lineup for the first time this season, but it all came from the creativity of Scott Wright, and Aberdeen have a 2-goal lead.
Yeah, it's into the final area. Great little bit of play from Scott Wright. I think he's trying to pick out, I thought it was Marley Watkins, it's not. Is it Lewis Ferguson at the near post there? He misses it, and Curtis Main will be very, very thankful that it's on a plate for him to tap it into the back of the net. When we were talking about the first goal, important to get it before half-time, 2-0 before half-time, and that man will be absolutely delighted to take the 2-goal lead into the break.
And Curtis Main, who only managed 4 goals in his debut season after arriving from Motherwell last summer, now off the mark in his first start of the new campaign.
There's good positive play again though from the forward men. This time it was Scott Wright just driving at the opponents, getting in behind, penetration, and then on that occasion he tried to pick out Lewis Ferguson, but it was a good ball. You know, it wasn't a bad ball, and Curtis Main getting himself in between the posts and getting a tap into the back of the net. That's what you want from those forward players. Sorry, Rory. You want to see them getting forward, committing the opponents.
Sore on here for Peter Knudsen. He took a bash to the face, but after taking a while to break down, you can just see the way he went down as McKenna went up, and he took a nasty one to the head there, Peter Knudsen.
Volleyed in the head. Not pleasant.
Well, they're just taking every precaution that they can do with their striker.
Completely accidental, of course. He slipped, and Scott McKenna was just up for the header.
They seem happy that he should be able to continue. We're almost at the break. And get a bit more treatment over the next quarter of an hour. There's Johnny Hayes, but for now, well, they're just back up to the full complement as Knudsen returns. Here's Hayes. Watkins wanted it short, but Hayes just knocks it off Christensen. McKenna, chance to stride forward. Got a bit of ahead of him, but he does manage to find Watkins. McKenna has continued. Watkins elects to go it alone. Almost finding Hayes. Watkins barging his way through. Hit the back of Olsen.
It was a scrappy 20 seconds or so.
Here's Knudsen, good steal from him against McGeoch. He's got McCrory now to try and get round the outside of. It was calm play from the Scotland Youth International. And that is that for the first half. Aberdeen took their time to break down NSI Runavik, but they did eventually through Lewis Ferguson and then Curtis Main, who got the second soon after, and they're in a comfortable position at the break at Pittodrie. It's Aberdeen 2, NSI Runavik 0.
And don't forget that Premier Sports is your home for Scottish knockout football. Our exclusive coverage of the Betfred Cup begins on the 6th of October, kicking things off with 7 live group games, details of which can be found on premiersports.com. And of course, we will be bringing you the conclusion of this year's Scottish Cup with both semi-finals and the final live on Premier Sports. So half-time here at Pittodrie, Aberdeen leading by 2-0. Alec Ray back alongside me. Alex, 5 minutes there at the end of that half lead has led to a very different team talk for Derek McInnes. How satisfied do you think he'll be ultimately with that first 45?
Yeah, he'll be delighted to get the 2 goals just prior to half-time. I thought they were kind of a little bit bogged down, weren't moving the ball slick enough, but you have to say Johnny Hayes and Kennedy down the flanks have caused all sorts of problems, and a wee bit of magic in the final third from Wright and a great ball by Considine's actually made the difference, really.
That's the thing, despite Runavik not really threatening the Aberdeen goal at all in that first half, Aberdeen just still a little bit static, despite probing, just couldn't get the ball in the net.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that was one of the things. You're also trying to look for a little bit of quality. It was coming down the right hand side by Kennedy. Some of his driving runs have been really impressive, coming in narrow, going wide, causing all sorts of problems from Nielsen down in the left back area and Hansen down this side. So they've been impressive to a point, but you know, you're looking at that little bit of quality, and I think that's what Derek will be looking for in the second half. He'll be looking for players to, you know, just show that little bit of genius, a wee bit of invention, and I'm sure there'll be more goals in the second half.
The way they set up with the 3 at the back does allow the wingers that width, doesn't it? And Michael said it in co-coms that if you can get the ball wide, you will get the breakthrough, and that's exactly how the first goal came about.
Yeah, absolutely. It was down the right hand side, but it was, you know, as I said, Kennedy's been really impressive. He gets on the front foot, he drives at people, causes all sorts of problems, and he just hits a little give and go here and pops it wide. And this is a lovely stand-up ball. Considine, it looks as if he was going to have a shot there, but you know, Ferguson's done that well as well. He supported the box, the front guys. He's had a couple of opportunities, and this is a lovely stood up ball, and it's begging just to be attacked, and Ferguson does that, and it's a really well placed header into the bottom corner.
We've seen it time and time again, haven't we, with Lewis Ferguson? He supports the forwards very well. He can lose his marker and just get into that space behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about the time of the run, Emma. You know, if you get yourself in that position often enough, you get the ball in there. He's aggressive, he attacks the ball well, and that's what he'll be looking to add to his game, more goals. He's got his all-round game's improving all the while.
Well, from Derek McInnes' point of view, they didn't have to wait very much longer for the second goal, and well, Curtis Main back in the starting lineup, but it was a really well-worked goal, this one. Yeah,
it's from a set play here. It's a lovely bit of skill here. I think he nutmegs the lad, and it's a lovely ball round the face. Ferguson again supporting, and as a striker, you're loving that. It's a tap in, it's like a couple of yards, gets up and running for that's his first goal of the season, second start. So, you know, he's in the right place between the sticks, and it's an easy tap in.
And I think as well, the timing of that goal from a Runavik point of view, it really was crucial for Aberdeen.
Yeah, Michael said that in commentary, you know, if they get a goal, it'll be soul destroying, and it is. It's deflating for them now. They have to come back out and try and get something out of the game, but they're not really offering anything in an offensive other than the long throw. So, you know, Aberdeen are such, you know, big imposing centre half, so they're not causing any problems at all, and I expect Aberdeen to rack up a couple of more goals in the second half. Well, Scott Wright had been a constant thorn in the Runavik side, despite the Aberdeen not getting the breakthrough, but some of his play was excellent in that first period. Yeah, he's some of his giving goals. He's quite an intelligent player as well. Look, he drops the shoulder there, comes back into his left foot, but unfortunately he just gets underneath it and goes over the bar. But this is what this lad can do. You know, he's so comfortable, got really good feet. He takes the ball in good possession as well, and he's just trying to kind of come back in here, and unfortunately he just doesn't get enough colour in that far corner. But you know, he's a talented kid. You like to see him do this a little bit more, Emma. Yeah, absolutely. And as you see there, Aberdeen peppering that goal and just not getting the breakthrough. But again, Scott Wright at the heart of everything. Yeah, absolutely. He picks up a really good area there, but I don't think he's renowned for his aerial prowess. But you know, he's getting himself in the right area. And Matt Kennedy as well, you just feel if they can get the ball to him, you know, he's had a few sniffs getting his crosses in, and now in this second period they'll try and get that ball further wide. They're terrorising them in the wider area because they have so many bodies narrow in the middle of the pitch, and when they get the ball wide, you know, you just feel as if Johnny Hayes and Kennedy can either go out, take them to the byline, come inside, do little give and goes, and they have the options to do that, and with the support from the midfielders, and then you have your two strikers as well, Watkins and Main. So as I said, you keep doing the right things, pick out that little bit of quality, and I'm sure they'll get more goals.
Well, you have to say that Derek McInnes, despite that 2-goal advantage so far, will very much be looking for more goals in the second half. It was Lewis Ferguson that got them on their way before the second goal very, very quickly followed. It was a lovely ball across the box, and it was Curtis Main with an easy tap in. Aberdeen leading at half-time by 2-0. Tomorrow night there is live exclusive action from BT Murrayfield as Edinburgh face Glasgow Warriors in the last Scottish derby of the Guinness Pro 14 this season. Edinburgh, of course, have already booked their place in the semi-finals of the competition, where they'll face Ulster. Every Pro 14 game, of course, is live on Premier Sports. Well, Alex, we're hearing a change, I think, for Aberdeen. Ryan Hedges coming on. He came off the bench and made a great impression against St Johnstone, so another wide man that can come on and make an impact for Aberdeen. Yeah, it's another good option for Derek McInnes. He is a talented kid, lovely technique, and obviously scored the goal against St Johnstone as well a couple of weeks ago. So it's like for like, really. He'll be looking to try and make a big impact. And that's the thing, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's Curtis Main that he's actually coming on for, but Derek McInnes, the message will be very much more goals, please. Yeah, absolutely, and I think he'll be trying to emphasise get the ball out wide and get good quality into the box. Well, the second half is fast approaching. Aberdeen do have that 2-goal lead. Let's cross back to our match commentators, Michael Stewart and Rory Hamilton.
Well, thank you very much, Emma, as Aberdeen make their way back out to Pittodrie with a 2-goal lead intact and looking to have a comfortable second 45 minutes to see themselves through to the second round. Glenn Stoll looking to inspire his side into some form of a comeback, but Scottish football was in need of a bit of a pick-me-up after last night's disappointment from Celtic being knocked out of the Champions League qualifiers by Ferencváros. Ryan Hedges comes on at the break. So an alteration for Aberdeen. It's Curtis Main who hasn't re-emerged after getting that second goal. And here is Hedges' first involvement, and straight into the action. Hedges, and picks out McGeoch, and it comes to Hedges again, and the flag is up against him. Well, that would have been some start.
Certainly would have been. Good positive play from Ryan Hedges, and then good awareness to recognise the cutback was the best option for him. Not a bad double save from Thompson, even though it was eventually flagged offside.
Benjaminson drops it back to Peter Knudsen. Olsen loses out, and now Watkins for Hedges. Looks like he means business early on, does Ryan Hedges.
I'll tell you, Rory, when the ball broke for Watkins, if he'd lifted his head, he would have seen that Torder Thompson was on the edge of the 18-yard box. Could have perhaps tried to knock it over the top of the goalkeeper.
Long ball does find Knudsen. He's got Ross McCrory for company. Now Christiansen. And into the middle. That tame ball in from Hansen. Would certainly have been a much more comfortable half-time team talk after those 2 goals coming from Lewis Ferguson and Curtis Main for Derek McInnes' side. Hedges again. Looks infield to Scott Wright, set up that second goal so well. Considine plays the return to Ferguson, scorer of the opening goal. Now McGeoch. Kennedy. It's just flicked away by Højgaard. They'll be coming straight back in from Hayes though. Decision just goes against Hedges. Into the feet of Christensen, one back. Well by McGeoch and combines with Hayes. Watkins with the return to Johnny Hayes. McGeoch. McKenna to McCrory. Kennedy. Considine. It's Hayes again. And towards right. That's well read by McGeoch. Still Dylan McGeoch. Drilled across and in by Ryan Hedges. Well, he's had a really lively 4 minutes and he's been rewarded with the goal on at half-time, and he strikes to make it Aberdeen 3, NSI Runavik 0.
Well, I was just praising Thompson for a double save earlier on, and on this occasion when McGeoch fires it out to Johnny Hayes, there's plenty pace on that ball into the middle, but the Runavik goalkeeper will be very disappointed he's not been able to hold on to that. And fair play to Ryan Hedges, he gets himself into the area where he can affect the game, and he's able to push it over the line, put Aberdeen into a very comfortable position, 3-0 up.
And they got that really important goal at St Johnstone last midweek to really kick-start Aberdeen's season, and another one for Ryan Hedges off the bench and straight in amongst the goals.
Well, they're in a good position now, you know, 3-0 up. It helps to get the positivity continuing to flow around the club. There's plenty of time, 40 minutes to look to get some more goals as well. And I wouldn't say it's been a sparkling performance so far, but very much in the same vein as the 2 league victories. It starts to build the momentum, buys them some time to try to find that identity of what it is that this Aberdeen is all about.
Is that maybe an identity, or at least a style of play in this side that is perhaps in a bit of a transition at the moment?
Well, it's been that way for a few seasons though, Rory, you know, and on a number of occasions in the last few seasons there's been times where results have come but performances have been a little bit questionable, and that's where I think, you know, fans have been a little bit quick to voice their concerns when results have just started to taper off slightly. You know, Derek McInnes has done a wonderful job in the period of time that he's been at Aberdeen. He's been through a bit of transition with regards to players having moved on and trying to replace them, which is difficult. Sometimes it hasn't worked. I think what he really needs to try to do is he needs to try and, as I just try to say, is stamp some sort of identity on the team. There's plenty of talent in this side. They need to try to piece it all together now. You know, they've got Kennedy, Hayes, Hedges, guys that can play wide and create, which is something they've maybe lacked in the last couple of seasons.
It's one of the few summers as well where they haven't yet lost a major player in that starting 11. Often seems to happen in Derek McInnes has to go for a major rebuild. So Nielsen back to Thompson. Slightly risky one to Davidson, who's going to come under pressure from Watkins.
It's good pressure from Ryan Hedges. You know, again, you know, without being overly disrespectful to Runavik, this is what Aberdeen should be doing. They should be hunting after the Faroese side. You know, credit to Runavik, they look to play the ball out from the back. Aberdeen shouldn't be sitting off them at all. They should be right down their throats, putting them under serious pressure, trying to win the ball high up the park.
Ferguson pops it out to Johnny Hayes. And McGeoch. McKenna quickly back on to Hayes. McGeoch picks out Ferguson. Now right. McGeoch once more. Slowly making their way forward, but a loose one in the end. Crowley attracted to that one. Knudsen got a touch on it and Olsen was blocked off by McKenna. Watkins will attempt to chase that one down, but it goes all the way past Thompson from Johan Davidson's header. It wasn't the ultimate embarrassment though, it did go wide of the target. Here's McGeoch running onto the short corner. Hedges was in there as well, but no joy on that occasion for the Aberdeen substitute. Quick feet from Watkins. Now Kennedy's going to have another go out on this right-hand side. Hedges and Watkins ahead of him, and Watkins couldn't quite bring it under his spell. It's a hook from Thompson.
You see there, Aberdeen are further at the park, putting pressure on Runavik and Thompson, and the goal still trying to play out.
Hedges to McGeoch. Now Kennedy, Hedges again, and dinks it through for Watkins. There was enough of the ball won by the defender. No, it's Nielsen who slid in.
You see here, I don't think there's any question about it. Marley Watkins has thrown his arms up and posing the question. I don't think there's any question to answer.
Good tackle from Sigurd Nielsen. Edges down to Kennedy. Last touch did come off the former St Johnstone man. Christensen, it's over the top of Benjaminson. McGeoch to Considine, who picked up a nice assist for the first goal from Lewis Ferguson. Enjoyed that one. McCrory. Kennedy coming under pressure, legally so, from Knudsen. It's a game which Aberdeen now, after the way that they've worked their way into it, are under very little pressure. They can go and enjoy the final half an hour or so. McGeoch from McKenna. Now McCrory. Kennedy off to McGeoch again, and Watkins. Kennedy has continued his run. He does catch it. Now right, and tees up Hedges. Oh, that's a fine strike. He's made a real impact, Ryan Hedges. 2 goals in a quarter of an hour of action, and he absolutely rifled that one past Tordor Thompson.
That's a good goal, it really is. The ball comes back to Hedges here, 1 touch out his feet, and that is lasered into the back of the net. No chance for Thompson in the Runavik goal. Really good strike from Hedges. A good move from Aberdeen as well. All the way down the right hand side, some good interchange and running off the ball.
Off for NSI Runavik is Barder Hansen, and replaced by Jakob Jakobsen.
Good pronunciation, Rory.
Joining Mortis Mortensen on the pitch. McKenna wins that. Off to Nielsen, and now Olsen. His teenage years played in an Aberdeen football festival, and a few of the lads were actually signed up by the Aberdeen youth team. Here's Hedges, he's on a hat-trick now. Kennedy into Ferguson. Hedges now looking to turn provider, and Scott Wright was trying to peel away. Olsen to Christensen. We've got a while to wait until the second round of the qualification. It will be midway through September. The international break coming up. Aberdeen will be hoping for a favourable draw in round 2. Another 5 minutes before Bruce Anderson will be introduced, we understand. He's just going through his warm-up.
Set times when he comes on, is it?
Up to Watkins, who's been leading the line. They will need to, or want to, get more game time into Bruce Anderson, as I mentioned, with the other 2 strikers injured for the foreseeable future. Here's Olsen. Beck. Mortensen. And again, Aberdeen crowd out their opponents.
Bruce Anderson's a player that I like. You know, I think that he's limited opportunities. Some of the games that he has played, he's not been able to have a big enough impact. Think about the first game of the season here as well against the Rangers, very isolated at the top end of the park, but I think he's a player who has talent, he's got ability. I'd like to see him with some more game time.
That will come at the moment though, won't it, with Sam Cosgrove's going to be out for a good while, because he's the one that he's one of the first names on the team sheet.
Well, there is no doubt about that, but I think Bruce Anderson's somebody that could play alongside or just in behind. Now, depending on what way Derek McInnes wants to set up his Aberdeen team, obviously tonight he's played with a 3 at the back and 2 up top. That gives the opportunity to get somebody up alongside a Sam Cosgrove. Or if he plays a 4-2-3-1, which is a formation he's played a lot of down the years, I think Anderson could play him behind.
Kennedy clattered, but it's well taken on by Johnny Hayes. Aberdeen had 4, they've now got more, that's 5. It's Aberdeen 5, NSI Runavik 0.
What a strike that is from Johnny Hayes. Matty Kennedy gets wiped out. The referee does well to let play on, and that is an absolutely brilliant strike from Johnny Hayes. I think the pace means that Thompson has no chance of saving that. Not right in the top corner, but the power and the pace from Johnny Hayes means that Tordor Thompson had no chance of saving it. And 5-0, certainly a very, very nice scoreline for Derek McInnes to look on.
Well, completely one-sided now, and to think that it took Aberdeen over 35 minutes to break down Glenn Stoll's team.
Not just that, there wasn't many shots on goal in that first half an hour, Rory, either. But, lots more attacking play that'll excite Derek McInnes, and lots of good strikes as well.
Ferguson with a touch on to Hayes, who'd just gone offside, but there was so much excitement at the re-signing of Johnny Hayes, and actually a bit of surprise from many onlookers at Celtic supporters that Neil Lennon didn't offer, or there wasn't a deal to be done for Johnny Hayes at Celtic.
Yeah, it was a deal that I thought would have happened, and you know, the stage that Johnny Hayes is in his career, you know, perhaps just another year's contract. I thought Celtic would have done that because he a really good player to have around the building. Filled in at a number of different roles, played left back quite a few times. Just thought that he was the type of squad player that Celtic would have looked to keep. But Aberdeen's gain, you know, to get him back here at Pittodrie. He's obviously been a very, very important instrumental player at Aberdeen over the years as well. And it's a good addition to the squad that Derek McInnes has been able to make.
It's Olsen's header, it goes wide of the target. Still Joe Lewis yet to be tested. Hat-trick against Barrytown for Clement Olsen. That's unable to beat Joe Lewis as yet. And he's had precious few opportunities even to get any involvement really in the game. He's their main man. Considine for Hayes, loses out. Højgaard, it's a bit uneasy, but did manage to feed it back to Thompson. Easy for McKenna, he's just mopped up anything that's been sent long up towards the NSI Runavik striker. Kennedy again finds the space for the cross. It's a deeper one, which Hayes returns into the middle. Ferguson. And Watkins looked to have a bit of a tug on his shirt there before Ferguson sent it high, well over the top of the goal.
You see when Watkins lays it off, yeah, he's getting his jersey pulled, but that's a good opportunity for Lewis Ferguson. Set off nicely, stepping onto it, perfectly placed to hit it first time.
Ferguson not pulling out of any challenges. Right, nicely done from him. Ferguson takes over and opens it up for Johnny Hayes. Watkins. Olsen. Now with Beck looking for Knudsen. Support coming, but Knudsen holds on to it. Continues his battle with McCrory. Deflected, and Joe Lewis is called into action. It was Jan Benjaminson's cross that took a touch on its way through.
Yeah, just off of Johnny Hayes' arm, I think it was. Meant Joe Lewis had to deal with that, but comfortable for the Aberdeen captain. Just to put it over the crossbar and give Runavik the corner kick.
Quarter of the game left to play. Sigurd Nielsen with the corner for NSI. Olsen back in. Aberdeen standing firm, desperate to keep a clean sheet, and that won't be threatening it from Mortis Mortensen. Well, coming up on Premier Sports, we'll finish off last season with the semi-finals and final of the Scottish Cup. Aberdeen have Celtic to play at Hampden in their semi-final, and we've also got exclusive coverage of the Betfred Cup, starting with the group stages in early October. Ferguson for Hayes, who looks long. Watkins is on his way. He is quick, but he's gone a little early. So a change coming for NSI Runavik. We'll see Mortis Mortensen go off and Stefan Lockin to come in. On the clock. It's a cold night in the Granite City. Nielsen helps it wide for Knudsen. Back for Jakobsen. Now Aberdeen might look to break. There's some space if they can work it. Hedges. Kennedy into McGeoch. Right, back to Hedges. Kennedy. Watkins now. And we did say 5 minutes till Bruce Anderson. Those minutes are running out for the young striker.
10 minutes ago, Rory.
So they're not planned. Just coming down the steps to get ready. Aberdeen will be making the change. McGeoch into Watkins. Popped that one off, but straight to Lockin. McGeoch, it is a free kick though. There's Bruce Anderson, who'll get the just under 20 minutes. And it will be Marley Watkins who makes way. The next stoppage in play. Considine wins the header. Watkins Took one in the back. McGeoch just places it in front of Considine to encourage him forward. So now time for Bruce Anderson to replace Marley Watkins and look to get amongst the goals for Aberdeen in Europe.
Certainly an opportunity to get involved in a game where Aberdeen are thoroughly dominant and plenty opportunities to perhaps get himself on the score sheet as well.
The run provided by Scott Wright. Hayes infield, so too Hedges. Now McGeoch. Wright once more. An elusive runner, so too is Hedges, put across with excellent pace. Nobody there for a tap-in. This time it's Kennedy to the back post for Considine. It will just be a goal kick though.
More good play from Ryan Hedges. Being positive. Getting towards the byline, firing the ball across the face of the goal. Just no takers. Good little drop of the shoulder. Could Bruce Anderson have thrown himself at it perhaps, but there's no doubt that Hedges has made an impact coming on in the second half.
Hayes winning it back, fighting for everything still. McGeoch into Ferguson, those two complement each other well in the middle of the park for Aberdeen. Scott Wright. Nice pass from him. A bit of afters as well between him and Oder Højgaard.
Handbags, Rory.
Jesper Christensen rather. Those two continue the discussion. Scotland's other representatives at this stage of the Europa League qualifying, Motherwell, 2 up against Glentoran, who are down to 10 men, in the Stephen Craigan derby. Torda Thompson taking his time. Already beaten 5 times. Aberdeen will fancy a couple more in the closing quarter of an hour or so. Hedges, break of the ball comes to Anderson. They're flooding forward at pace here. Kennedy looks to go past his man, and Jakobsen did well.
I think Kennedy had the opportunity just to slip Hedges in earlier. Tried to take on Jakobsen, and you can quite clearly see that corner should have been given.
Aberdeen not contesting it quite as much, had the scoreline being a little closer. We've got a very intriguing game at Easter Road on Sunday to back this one up for Aberdeen.
Big game, really big game. Exciting one. It's a fixture that the home sides have predominantly come out on top in the recent past. Although Aberdeen have had a couple of victories down at Easter Road. Remember one with Gary Mackay-Stevens scoring recently. But they'll be going into it full of confidence on the back of the 2 league victories and having put 5 past Runavik here tonight. This is the sort of game that, had it been 1 or 2-0, it would have been a bit flat. The fact they've put 5 past the Faroese team, it will help to build on that 6 points that they've picked up in the last 2 games in the league, and going to Easter Road now, it will be a big game.
Here's Knudsen, taken away by McGeoch. There's a problem for McCrory as he just gets back to his feet. Down goes Hedges. It will be a Runavik throw. I think pretty safe to say that it will be 3 wins on the bounce for Aberdeen, something that they only managed once last season. It was over late October and into November, so
I presume when you say 3 wins in a row, you're talking about, including this game, you're not predicting the result at Easter Road quite yet.
No. 2 league wins plus tonight. They will come up against a Hibernian side who are also high on confidence after their start to the league season.
They've had a very good start to the season, but the last couple of performances have not been great. But similarly to what we're saying about Aberdeen, an important point at this stage is just to get the results. Start to try to get the performances to come along with it as well. Hibs have got lots of attacking intent, and they'll be over the moon and buoyed with the fact that Martin Boyle has signed a new deal there.
Niall McGinn will be coming on for the final 10 minutes. I understand Scott Wright will be the one to make way for McGinn. Here's Anderson. Considine to McGeoch. Total control, Aberdeen. Hayes. Considine and McGeoch. We can quite happily just see out the final moments of this game. And safely into the next round. There's Anderson. McGeoch. No, not quite the right combination there. One back by Lewis Ferguson. It's Niall McGinn to come on. 6 goals in Europe under Derek McInnes. And he'll replace Scott Wright for the final 8 and a bit minutes. They've got plenty options in the wide areas and the sort of creative positions, don't they?
Yeah, they do now. You know, I was talking about it earlier on, and didn't mention Niall McGinn. He hadn't come on the park yet, but he's another one that Derek McInnes can turn to. Conor McLennan as well. So they do have those options. Now again in the last wee while, perhaps not played as much as an out-and-out winger as he has previously. When you think back to a few years ago, McGinn down one wing, Hayes down the other, putting balls in for Adam Rooney, wreaked havoc against the opposition. I'm sure there'll be somewhere for Niall McGinn to play in this Aberdeen side over the course of the season and have an impact, because he's a big player, comes up with big moments.
And Derek McInnes just remodelling that squad, keeping the experience of the likes of Hayes and McGinn and sprinkling it with younger players. McGeoch, it's a good ball out to Ryan Hedges on a hat-trick, deflected and wide for a corner.
That's a good early ball through from McGeoch to Hedges. You know he wants to cut it back on that left foot. I think he was trying to just knock it between the defender's legs and into the near post area. It took the deflection and went out for a corner.
Quickly taken to Kennedy, twisting and turning. Saw one for Johan Davidson. Here's McGinn for his first involvement. McGeoch, McCrory, Kennedy drops it back to Ross McCrory. Brother Robbie's in the Scotland squad. Sliding challenge from Kennedy. Gets the return from Hedges, and Kennedy now swings it in. He's got another opportunity to pick out a man. Anderson still at the back post. Kennedy. And down goes Ferguson, and that is a penalty kick. The challenge was rather needless and reckless into the back of Lewis Ferguson, and Aberdeen will have a chance from the spot.
Well, you could see when it spun up in the air here, Lewis Ferguson was in a good position, and that's clumsy from Jakobsen, just clattered into the back of Lewis Ferguson. I think he knew the defender was coming, and chance for Ryan Hedges to get a second half hat-trick.
Well, Lewis Ferguson wanted it. He did tuck his penalty away against Livingston at the weekend brilliantly, Ferguson, but it will be Ryan Hedges for a second half hat-trick. It's Hedges, and power ensures that it goes through the hands of Torder Thompson. Aberdeen have 6, and Ryan Hedges has a hat-trick.
He needed all the pace and power on that, because Thompson guesses the right way, gets his hands to it. Just too much power for the Faroese keeper. The winger's got the match ball at the end.
Well, the instruction did come from the touchline as Lewis Ferguson looked up to Derek McInnes, who between them they agreed that Ryan Hedges should have the opportunity to complete his hat-trick, and he did so powerfully. It'll be a free kick to NSI Runavik. It's Aaron Aaron Knudsen, who will be replacing Salmunder Beck just for the final moments of the game. Here comes the 21-year-old. Can they cause a problem for Joe Lewis? Not with that ball into the middle. As Knudsen gives it straight to Ferguson now. McGinn. Ferguson was fouled, and that leads to a yellow card for Odor Højgaard.
Deliberately takes Lewis Ferguson out of the game, deserving of the card there.
Well, this is our 7th in this for Aberdeen. Will they settle for the 6? McGear into McCrory. Considine. The defenders really haven't had to break sweat for the Dons. Joe Lewis will be freezing down that end.
Well, if he's anywhere near as cold as I am, and he's probably had to do as much as I've had to do, then I've got no doubt he'll be feeling a little bit chilly.
McCrory for McKenna. We're in the final minute of normal time. Niall McGinn up towards Ferguson. Heavy touch from Jakobsen. Johnny Hayes still bombing about at full tilt in the 90th minute with a 6-0 scoreline in his side's favour. Hedges looking for the 1-2 with Ferguson. It was well read though.
Dylan McGee's been a lot more involved in the second half as well. The first half seemed to pass him by a fair bit. He's just knitting the game together, speeding things up.
Kennedy just fell over his own feet. He's won it back. Only 3 further minutes. Starting now. A much more positive night for the Scottish clubs in Europe. Rangers will be joining Aberdeen in the draw for the second round. And you think from the home side's point of view, another game at Pittodrie would do nicely. That will be another one-legged playoff. It stays that way until the playoffs. Free kick goes the way of Loken. Olsen peels off. Get in here, it's a decent header across goal. But again, no danger to trouble Joe Lewis. Considine will rise with Loken. Benjaminson back to Højgaard in the final minute of the additional time. Aberdeen have been comfortable ever since they got that second goal through Curtis Main, who didn't emerge for the second half, but his replacement, Ryan Hedges, certainly did. A hat-trick for the Aberdeen winger. Put this game well beyond doubt. McCrory covers across well. Considine to Hayes. A job very well done by the Dons, and in particular Ryan Hedges, whose second half hat-trick saw them into a 6-0 victory, and Derek McInnes's side safely through into the second round of Europa League qualifiers to happen next month. The full-time score at Pittodrie, it's Aberdeen 6, NSI Runavik 0.
To play at your best, the slightest adjustments can make all the difference. Every move, every turn, every angle. And when you shave, it's no different. Gillette Pro Glide Flexible responds to contours for our ultimate closeness. A clean shave for a clean face, so you can always show your best side. Gillette, made of what matters.
Today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop, sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year. Terms apply.
Millions of people trust Head & Shoulders. It deeply cleans and helps fight dandruff, oil, itch, and dryness. Clinically proven, up to 100% flake-free and 100% clear mind. Proudly, the UK's #1 shampoo.
Established in 2002, Watchfinder is where you'll get great value on thousands of pre-owned watches from over 50 brands like Rolex, Breitling, Omega, and more. There's everything from vintage classics to cutting-edge contemporary bestsellers. And every single one is inspected at our manufacturer-certified service center. All of our watches are in stock and available for free next-day delivery. Buy, sell, and exchange your watch online and in store at Watchfinder.
What about that from Cristiano Ronaldo? Now Luis Suarez, Luis Suarez with a back heel goal. Tension mounting then. Mike could not keep up with that one. That's one of the best races I think we've seen in Sweden this year. Typically entertaining racing here tonight. There was so much going on there, it was hard to follow. Oh, what a goal that is! Sensational! Messi, what a finish from Leo Messi!
Full time here at Aberdeen 6, Runavik 0, and it wasn't so much one moment of the match for Ryan Hedges. He came on as a half-time substitute and he bagged himself a second half hat-trick. Quite the impact for the Welsh international, as I say, coming off the bench and really showing his worth. Alec Gray alongside me as always. And Alec, I mean, we talked about him at half-time coming on, hoping to make an impact. Could you have imagined that sort of an impact?
No, we said at half-time, Emma, we felt as if he could go and showcase what he could do, but he was excellent for the off. 2 goals in 15 minutes. Some of his finishing was excellent, some of his all-round play. He's just a really hungry player to showcase what he could do, and he actually took the ball off of Ferguson for the third one.
That was the thing. Sometimes it backfires when a player takes the ball off the regular penalty taker, but he made no mistake with that one.
No, he put everything behind it, and I think it was the pace that actually done the goalkeeper in the end. But he deserved it because he came in here today and he was just showing the manager what he could do today.
Yeah, and I think we saw in the first half, didn't we, a little bit of vulnerability from Runavik down that right-hand side from an Aberdeen perspective, and Hedges certainly came on and exploited that.
Yeah, without doubt. I thought Kennedy and Hayes were outstanding all night. He was looking a lot of players to get on the front foot, and they very much did that. But, you know, Ryan Hedges, what an introduction. It was brilliant. It was good to watch as well. You know, you're looking at a young guy trying to make his way in the game, and you know that's 4 goals now he's gotten so far this season. That's
the thing. He came off the bench and scored the winning goal against St Johnstone in the league. But I mean, it wasn't just down to him today, because even on this right hand side, Matt Kennedy as well, they had some lovely interlinking play, him and Hedges, in the second half.
Yeah, I thought Kennedy was excellent. You know, he was always on the front foot. He's trying to get to the full back, and he absolutely terrorised them over the piece tonight. And even in the 90th minute, he's still trying to get down this side. But I think in the second half there was a lot more purpose for Aberdeen. They were in the front foot. Ferguson and McGeoch had a really big impact as well, and you know they ran out worthy winners in the end.
Yeah, it took 37 minutes for the deadlock to be broken, but Lewis Ferguson, he's been such a crucial player for Aberdeen, certainly last season, the start of this season, and it was a great ball from Andrew Considine to set him up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just this little give and go at the edge of the box, gets him a little bit stretched. Considine looks to feint to shoot, steps it up to the back post, and Ferguson's leaping there. And you know, he can do that. He can go from middle to front as well. He's got the legs, he's got the desire to go and put his head on the end of this. And as you can see, he's up and over the defender and at the bottom corner. Lovely goal.
And being a goal-scoring midfielder like that, and somebody that can exploit that space, it is such a valuable commodity to a team.
Yeah, without doubt. You need goals from all over the pitch. He has a desire to get into that position, and I think he can, you know, get between 6, 8, 10 goals, depending how much he wants to drive forward. And it really depends on how Derek McInnes is going to deploy him, because, you know, sometimes he's doing a sitter, but he has so much at his disposal to go and get forward and get goals.
Well, we've got another 5 goals to show you, but before that, let's hear from what I imagine will be a very happy Aberdeen manager. Derek McInnes is with Rory Hamilton.
Derek, congratulations. What was the most pleasing aspect of that performance?
A bit of everything, really. I think the goal threat, I think the confidence of the team, especially once we get the first goal, the clean sheet, getting boys back up and running again, and getting some fitness into main, and another game for Marley Watkins, another game for big Andy Considine coming back into it. So loads of positive, good night for us clearly. I think it's a game we could really have done with. I think the players needed reminded of good players. And obviously the opposition, we spoke about the threats that they carried. We spoke before on the video with the team to say that if they give time to play, they would enjoy the game. And I think the emphasis on stopping them passing, stopping them getting any possession, knocked them out of their stride. They weren't allowed to play their natural game. I thought the speed in the team was very good, and obviously getting that amount of goals is always pleasing.
Was there any concern in that opening half an hour or so, or did you always feel it was just a matter of time that it would start to come?
I thought we were good in the game. I thought we were good in the game. Sometimes, you know, it doesn't always come automatic. You know, you're up against a team who have, you know, clearly relishing the opportunity, and sometimes you've got to wear them down. Sometimes it's about constantly doing the right thing. You know, and I think that, you know, the forward runs, the keeping possession of the ball. I thought McGeoch was instrumental with that, because he was everybody's first pass in the team. And then once we got the chance to face him up, we managed to play through them. And you know, I thought we carried a threat tonight, which was really pleasing considering the injuries we've got to key players. So I think another game towards where we want to be, getting into a bit of rhythm, you know, is clearly pleasing. And we want to try and finish off this little block of games now with another performance on Sunday. But delighted with what the players gave us tonight. And I think it's a little reminder to them that they're good players. I thought Hayes and Kennedy, a wee reminder of what they actually are: ball carriers, crossers of the ball, goal threats, and really pleased with tonight's work.
You had Curtis Main back tonight. He got amongst the goals, but he came off at half time. Was that an injury?
Yeah, no, it was just he was always down to play 45. I said to you before the game, I wanted the game to be a bit British and make sure we get plenty of crosses in the box. Granted, he gets his goals on the stroke of half time, but I thought we got plenty of crosses in the first half without really carrying the threat that I wanted to. But Curtis was down as part of his kind of step towards where we need him to be, to get 45 minutes, no more, no less. And no, he gets his goal, he works hard, now he can prepare now for Sunday.
And the man that came on for him did all right as well. What did you say to Ryan at half time?
Well, he was unlucky not to start. I think the system went against him tonight because I wanted to play with two out-and-out strikers, as I said to you, and we wanted to have Scotty Wright in the 10 to stretch them and go beyond them. So the system kind of went against Hedges tonight, and we toyed with putting young Bruce Anderson on at half time, and then I decided to put Hedgie on and still think like a centre forward from that wider area, get involved in the middle of the goal, and he got off to a flying start and to score a hat-trick in 45 minutes is good on him. He's in good form. I think that's 4 goals and an assist now he's had in 3 games, and he's only started one of them, so he's clearly in a good vein of form and wanting to take the penalty at the end, show an indication of how confident he is.
It's a good performance, and of course it's all about progression, and you move into round 2. Is there anything in particular you're looking from that draw, or would you just love to be back here?
A home tie would be nice again. I think that would be the biggest thing, and I think regardless of who we play, obviously it's like any cup competition, you normally play a better level opponent, and but I think we'll be better again for having had a couple of games now, and we'll look forward to it when it comes round.
Derek, thanks for your time. Well
Thank
done.
you. Cheers.
A number of very big positive talking points from Derek McInnes there. Not least, Michael, the fact he said there he wanted to remind the players that they're good players, and a performance like that tonight can certainly do that.
It certainly helps. There's no doubt about that. Getting the number of goals that they have tonight, and especially the second half performance, I think that they showed that. They're not a bad side. I said this before the game. They've got the individual components. They just need to try to find the identity of this team and bring those talents to the fore. I think I'm not going to be overly disrespectful to the opponents, but they're going to be coming up against better teams than that. Especially even at the weekend against Hibs. But it does help the confidence to go into that game on the back of 2 league victories and a comprehensive victory here tonight. And if they can find the right balance to the team, then Aberdeen have got the components to be a good side and go and challenge at the top of the table.
We'll pick up on that in just a moment, but one player who certainly is not short of confidence is Ryan Hedges, and we can hear from the hat-trick hero. He's with Rory.
Ryan, what a performance. How enjoyable was it to play in that game?
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable. I think you could see the confidence that was flowing through all the players. Obviously it's the first round, but it's all about getting through in this round, and hopefully we can carry it on also onto Sunday in the league.
I can imagine the manager says to you at the break, go and make an impact. You didn't take long, because even before you got the goal, you were making an impact.
Yeah, just say go on, make an impact, and just do what you've been doing for the last couple of games. And thankfully, a great ball in from Johnny, and I don't think I could have missed the first one. And then, obviously, with that first goal, confidence grew, and just felt like every chance I get, I could take it.
The second was some strike as well. There wasn't much stopping that.
Yeah. It's probably what I should have done against St Johnstone, but obviously that was deflected in. But it's always nice to get a goal, and hopefully can just keep contributing with more.
What did you say to Lewis, or what did Lewis say to you when the penalty was awarded?
Nothing. Just obviously he's the penalty taker, and I just kind of made him aware I was on for a hat trick, and I think he eventually ended up letting me have it, which was nice of him, and thankfully I put it away.
Well, Ryan, I think your first senior hat trick, so congratulations on that. Well done.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Ryan Hedges there with Rory, and you can still hear Derek McInnes in the background, but it didn't do any harm for Ryan when he was coming on at half-time, that message from his manager. But let's just go back to the first half, because we saw Lewis Ferguson's opener, and very quickly afterwards it was Curtis Main who added a second, and you won't get an easier finish, but it was great build-up work.
Yeah, without doubt, this is a lovely ball round the face. As all strikers should do, is just get in between the sticks. It's a nice little easy tap in for Curtis Main to get off the mark this season, but great individual ability to put it across the face.
I thought Scott Wright, as the game, this is obviously in the first half, but I thought even in the second half he started to come more and more into the game. He's a boy that's got plenty of ability. He just needs to bring a bit of consistency to his performances, and in commentary was talking about the wide boys in terms of Johnny Hayes and Matty Kennedy, Niall McGinn, Ryan Hedges. Scott Wright can play right across that front line, and he's somebody that if he can bring a bit of consistency to his game, then again he will be an important player for Derek McInnes.
And he was given the nod from the start. But Ryan Hedges was the man who came off the bench and made an immediate impact. I think it was just about 4 minutes he was on the pitch when he managed to get this one, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great play at the edge of the box here, and the ball round the face. And he couldn't really miss this, Emma. You've another in the right place at the right time as well. You know, he has a desire to attack that ball as it's coming across the face. The keeper could have done so much better there. It's a poor effort to clear it, but lovely tap in.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a tap-in for him there, but for as good a tap-in as that one was, it's not always easy, Michael, is it, to come into a game, especially when the pressure's on to add to the goal tally?
Yeah, I mean, look, Ryan Hedges, he started, his Aberdeen career really, really well. Looked as if he was going to, be a really, important player for Aberdeen, and it's just tailed off slightly. This season's going to be a big season for him. There's competition for places in those in that area of the park as well, and coming on and getting a second half hat trick is going to do no harm, for his cause to get into the team. But he's somebody that you can see has got that ability. His first goal's a tapping, but the next is a really, really good strike. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, you mentioned the tap in there. But the second one was anything but real class in this finish here.
Yeah, again, it's Matty Kennedy down that right hand side, but he's no backlift at all. And the power he generates here is technically excellent. He just pulls the trigger and does the keeper at the near post. And I think because he hits it so early, the keeper can't get set, Michael, and he's done it at the front post.
I mean, it's a great strike. As Alex said there's no backlift. He gets the strike off so quick that Thompson and the Runavik goal's got no chance to save it. And it's his first touch as well, gets out his feet, means he's well balanced to fire off the strike. And at that point, you're thinking to yourself, it could have been a cricket score. It wasn't far off it.
Well, you're thinking as well that this is going to be the best strike of the night, and then up steps Johnny Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely sensational. Johnny Hayes' strike just from the edge of the box. Matty Kennedy gets wiped out here. Quite similar in terms of it's not a big backlift. It gets out his feet, well balanced, very much in the same vein as Ryan Hedges' strike, and just, it's right under his feet. So to generate that pace and power, it's not easy. And the keeper's got absolutely no chance.
He's had to sort his feet out as well then, Michael, because he's back towards goal, generates the power, but he shows a terrific desire within the game, to get forward, to score goals and make things happen for Aberdeen.
And you mentioned it in commentary as well, Michael, but the experience that he brings to a club like Aberdeen, it was a great signing for Derek McInnes to bring him back here. Yeah,
he's an important player for Aberdeen. And, look, Derek McInnes did the same with Niall McGinn. Obviously he left the club for a brief period and looked to bring him back. These are guys that he trusts, guys that he knows he can rely on, and he's somebody that can fill in a number of positions. He's played left back for Celtic a lot. You see him here having played wing back as well. I think if you put him right up the top in that left wing area where we know he's played over the years, he can operate anywhere down that left hand side, and he will be a big player for Derek.
I think one of the things that he brings also, Michael, is the professionalism, his desire, his hunger for the game. He's getting mid-30s, 33, 34 now, and he still shows that kind of to bomb up and down. And I think with the young guys round about the place, we can rub off on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps some of the points that Neil Lennon was actually touching on last night about players not wanting to be at the club. Johnny Hayes could never have been accused of that attitude. Exactly what you would have needed in the dressing room.
Aye, absolutely. And he'll be bringing that here, as Alec talks about. He's an experienced player. He's somebody that I think will set high standards. And I just touched on it before. He's somebody that Derek McInnes can trust, and that's very important.
Well, just when Runavik may have thought that they'd got away with just 5, Aberdeen did not give up pressing, and it was Lewis Ferguson who won this penalty, no doubt about it, is there?
Well, he's in this advanced position again, Emma, but he does really well because he backs in, invites the contact, and there's no doubt there's a penalty.
And there's no doubt who was taking it, was it, once it got awarded?
Well, there was a little bit of Dubai to begin with. It looked as if Lewis Ferguson was wanting it, but no, Hedges eventually steps up, and he needed the pace and the strike because Thompson got his hand to it, but too much for the keeper to save.
Yeah, I mean, we heard from Derek McInnes earlier, obviously very happy, but just how much pressure was on Aberdeen going into this match. Again, we saw what happened with Celtic last night, but it's been a tumultuous start to the campaign for them.
Yeah, it has. It's been stop-start. There's no doubt about that, but I think they've handled it pretty well. Those 2 victories in the league that they managed to get off the back of the enforced shutdown, and in this game here, pressure perhaps, but it's a game that they knew they could have and should have, and eventually they have won.
Yeah, and on to Hibs this weekend, and of course, not before the disciplinary hearing tomorrow. I mean, from your own perspectives, how do you feel that's going to go? What do you think the outcome is going to be?
It's very difficult to say, you know.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, because they've obviously it'll be difficult. They may well actually kind of take games after them, Michael. It'll be a financial penalty. It's difficult to say, Emma, but you know, it's obviously something they'll obviously regret, the players. You know, they've had a lot of stick. They want to put an end to it, but if they lost the players to some sort of suspension, it would be a real blow, because they're actually starting to get a little bit of momentum at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, without wanting to prejudice what they come out with, I would be surprised if there's a suspension. I think perhaps just a rap across the knuckles. As Alex says, I think everybody wants to move on from that episode, and I think if there's any sort of suspension that's handed down, it prolongs things, it drags it out. I think a severe warning and a sort of rap across the knuckles and move on is what I would suspect will happen.
Yeah, well, that is tomorrow. They won't let it dampen their spirits this evening here at Aberdeen. But just a final reminder from a Premier Sports perspective that this is your home for Scottish knockout football. Our exclusive Betfred Cup coverage starts in October, when Premier Sports will broadcast 7 group stage games live. It all kicks off with Hearts against Inverness Caledonian Thistle on October the 6th. 3 days later, it's Dunfermline Athletic versus Falkirk, and then we bring you coverage of Cove Rangers and Hibs. Details for all 7 group games can be found on premiersports.com. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Your performance has been as impressive off the field as Aberdeen's has been on it. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been great. Bit cold.
Thank you very much to Alex and Michael. We'll let them go and get a warm-up, but it's very much job done from an Aberdeen perspective. They've run out 6-0 winners this evening, and as has already been pointed out, they'll learn who they face in the next round when the draw takes place on Monday. But for now, it's finished. Aberdeen 6, Runavik 0. Thank you very much for watching.